Hi, this is Catherine. This is Taking Tea with Catherine. This is Bigelow Benefits, which is an herbal tea line. I think it's called Calm Stomach. It has ginger peach flavors and hopefully some actual ginger because that's supposed to be good for your stomach. And I could use always some benefits to my stomach. Can I not? So I thought it would fit in well today because we're reaching the end of 2022. So the last month is here. So I'm doing a kind of a TBR situation, but not a strict TBR because I'm not going to give you a pile of books that I plan to start reading and hopefully finish a bunch. I am, in terms of numbers, like I really try not to be hung up on I have to make these goals, I have to read more, I have to do this and that. But in the past few years, I've usually peaked past, I don't know, 75, usually in the 80s recently. And I'm not near that. I'm almost at 60 right now. And I'm not going to read how many books that it would take. What was it? I can't do math. Like 20 books in December. I'm not even going to try to do that. I don't want to stress myself. It's not good for my stomach. But yeah, I've been a little bit of a slower reader this year. Part of it has to do with just, I don't know, my attention span is off. So it's really hard to me to just, pick up some books and just read through them. I have a bunch of books that I have as currently reading that's I've made a few chapters progress, maybe I've made it halfway through, and I just haven't gotten back to it recently. And that doesn't mean I don't like the book, as you'll see when I show you some of the books that I've been currently sort of reading. But yeah, it's partially that, and I would probably say I don't like blaming everything on the pandemic having slowed down a bit. I mean that's a good thing, right? We don't want everybody to be sick or being afraid of being sick or whatever. Although I happen to know currently at least two people who have COVID, at least. So it's not over, but it's not. I guess not what it was, the way it affected society as a whole. Um, which means that, let's not talk about sickness right now, because that's just, that's not what this is about right now. What it means is that I am not reading as much because I don't have as much time or energy because I've been going out more, sometimes even socially. So that's good. I've traveled a little bit this year, which is a big deal for me, at going back to London finally, going to, Chicago for the first time, seeing my sister, and also having people visit. So a lot of my time has been taken by these things. These are not things I regret. It's good to have, time with people. I've also spent some time with people in New York, and I've been going to the office, for work more instead of just working at home more. So that adds up to I'm just not reading as much, and that's okay. Maybe next year I'll read 90 books, and maybe next year I'll read 50 books. It's not a big deal. But I would like to do, just as I have been doing the past few years, actually, I tend to try to do this about twice a year, but especially in December, is what I call my cleanup, which is like just clearing out as many of the books I'm either currently reading or that I have out from the library. That started when during the pandemic, when books were, they weren't putting any fines on overdue books. So they kept saying, okay, this is the way it's going to be until at least after June of this time period, or at least until December of 2020, 2021, whatever. And then they finally said, you know what, we're just going to get rid of fines altogether. So I didn't have to stress about, okay, make sure you have many library books finished by this time. But I still think it's a good practice to maybe clear out. I currently have checked out of the library 15 physical books. That's a lot. It's actually too much. My goal is to have under 10 checked out of the library, because I mean, if you see what you see behind me, these are all books that I own, many of which I have not read yet. So I have enough books to read. I don't need to constantly go to the library, but this is how I am. So I'm not going to show you, oh, these are all the books that I plan to start, but I will show you one book that I've selected. Just one book well, there's two books here that I actually haven't started yet, but the other one is a library book. So I'm counting as a different category, blah, blah, blah. But this, the one I've just decided to just pick for an event on BookTube, but also just because I'm in the mood for it. So there is the now annual, I guess, and I forgot the actual name for it. I hope I can remember it to link it down below. Something about Christie's missing um, challenge or something. It has to do with during the time period that Agatha Christie disappeared for like I think it was like 10 days in December. And so a couple of booktubers decided to make an event out of that and read Agatha Christie books. And there's a group read and there's a whole bunch of different challenges you could do. I decided instead, because like I said, it's mainly a cleanup month for me and I don't want to complicate it, I decided just to pick an Agatha Christie book because I've been in the mood for her. You'll see in the upcoming wrap up that I read a biography of Agatha Christie. And so now I'm again in Agatha Christie mode. And I picked this one. And the reason why I picked this one is because, yes, there's a quote from a poem that I read in October for Victober, the Lady of Shalott by Alfred Tennyson. So this book is based on a quote from that poem. And not the whole book is, but the title is Agatha Christie, The Mirror Cracked. I think in the UK it's actually called The Mirror Cracked from Side to Side, but in the US we pare things down, I guess. Sometimes. And this is a really old copy. I might have read it because I know that these are one of the copies that we've had in my family for a long time. It might have been my mom's. I don't know. I don't have any writing in here. Sometimes people in my family would write in books in the past, but I don't see any. But I do know that when I was like in college time period, I was reading a lot of Agatha Christie. So I might have read this already. But if that's the case, it's been quite some time. It's been like over a quarter of a century ago. Yeah. So it feels new to me. So even if it'll probably seem a little familiar because I know I've seen adaptations of this one, and that's okay because I know that with Agatha Christie. But it's a Miss Marple, and I have been in the mood for Miss Marple. I love Poirot too, but I'm in the mood for Miss Marple. So, and it just feels a little bit. I mean, these books are always a little bit sad and sinister, but kind of cozy too. Good for December, I think. And then, okay, so now just in no particular order, I will show you, let's see. Well, actually, I'll try to put it in order. I'll show you 2 library books, one of which I haven't started yet, and I may not start, but I'm thinking I should start it, and the other one I have started already. Actually, I started like a week or so ago. This is a book by Freya Sampson, The Last Chance Library. I read the other book of hers in America. It's called The Lost Ticket, I think. It's called something different in London. I think it's like The Girl in the 88 Bus or something, which I read, and I will also talk about. Another thing I have to talk about in a upcoming wrap-up. I'm really behind in a lot of my wrap-ups. But, which, is the 88 bus in London, which made me, when I went to London, take the 88 bus because I thought, go along with it. So then I checked this book out, and it's got a library name to it, so I thought that was kind of fun. I'm not going to read the description because there's a sticker on top of it, but I'll let you know if I read it, if it's any good. At least it's going to have a library and bookish theme to it, and it looks kind of cozy too, hopefully. The last book was pretty good, like in that sense. I see a cat on here, by the way, so I like that. So this is another one, yes, that I might start in December, but I still consider it a cleanup if I manage to read it in December, or even if I finish it in early January. But either way, if I could return it to the library ASAP, that would be nice. This one is one of many historical novels that I like to read. I do like Alison Weir's, most of her novels. Sometimes they're a little like, what is that? But I've enjoyed the 6 Tudor Queens ones, but I started, I think, at the Jane Seymour, which is the 3rd queen. And then I read the Anne of Cleves, and I don't think I finished the Catherine Howard one because it just depressed me too much. Her life was just so sad, I think, more than the others, in my opinion. And then I also read the Catherine Parr one, which I thought they were all pretty good. So I thought, I gotta start at the beginning and go with Catherine of Aragon. So this is Catherine of Aragon, the True Queen by Alison Weir. Of course, she would be known as the True Queen because she was the first queen of Henry VIII. But he tried to get rid of her and replace her with Anne Boleyn, so she wasn't really appreciating that very much, as you can imagine. And sometimes when I'm getting into the Tudor era reading, whether it's a novel or nonfiction, and it's going in the Anne Boleyn years, there's times where I think to myself, why couldn't Catherine of Aragon just give up, just retire? She didn't have to go to nunnery. She could have just retired somewhere and been like Anne of Cleves, who just said, "All right, I'll be your sister." And I know one of the main reasons is because she had Mary, but I also think that if you read her actual, her actual history, and I have done so before, but I haven't done so in a while, you realize that she, to get to the point where she was even married to Henry VIII and was the queen, was, it took time and it took a lot of effort, and she had to go through some stuff before that happened. A lot of waiting, a lot of just, anxiety. And so when you get to that point, and then to the point where he wanted to get rid of her, yeah, I mean, I could see why she'd want to stay. Obviously, none of these queens really had it great. So, but these stories are always fascinating to me. So I'm reading that, and it seems to be going pretty quickly. Here's a book that I really love so far, but for some reason I've been taking my time with it all this year, and I would really like to finish it before this year is up. I think you know what I'm talking about if you've been watching this channel this year. My dear Anthony Trollope, The Last Chronicle of Barset. And yeah, I've made good progress, but I have to make more progress. And let's face it, it's thoroughly enjoyable, but I've just been getting distracted. Distractions are everywhere, not just from books, but mostly other books. And I read a whole other Anthony Trollope book in between, and so hopefully I will zero in on this one, especially during a time with Agatha Christie, because I read a quote. I can't remember where I read this quote, maybe online somewhere, but there's a quote from one of the Poirot stories by Agatha Christie where I believe he overhears some people talking about a Trollope novel and the death of one of the characters, and Poirot was thinking about it. And I'm pretty sure it's this book that they were talking about, or at least the series that they were talking about. And I just think that is fantastic. Hearing one of my favorite authors referring to another one of my favorite authors. I love that stuff. I just love it. I don't know if I love this tea. I like it. I don't know if I love it. I don't have it with me because I have it in my bag and I just don't want to take it out now because I don't want to forget it. Because I have it on the go. I'm also reading the Life of Charlotte Bronte. I am up to Charlotte's childhood, right around when she's about to go off to school the first time. So yeah, not exactly a happy time in life, but we'll see. And I don't want to lose my place here, but I want to take this thing out. Hold on. So yeah, I've been going through that a little bit slowly because I don't know. It all feels so familiar, and I think it does because I've actually read a lot about the Brontes over the years, and they quote from that book so often, they refer to it so often that it just feels so familiar. It's kind of like reading goodness. It is like reading Agatha Christie novels as well. Keep going back to her because a lot of them I've either watched adaptations of or read many years ago. So when I read them, they always feel a little bit familiar. There, a sentence. Diction, ladies and gentlemen, etc. So last but not least is a book I started, and it's on a topic that is near and dear to my heart, but I took the cover off because it's always kind of censored, and that is the Pre-Raphaelites in Love. I've already read one book this year with the Pre-Raphaelite theme, and so, but I think that's not enough because I made a project out of the whole Pre-Raphaelite deal, so I want to keep going with that. I do actually like this right here. It's kind of pretty, right? So that is just a handful of things that I'm either currently reading or about to start. Traffic. See, distractions abound. And there's just so many books that I have. I mean, if you've seen my recent hauls, there's so many books I need to get to or want to get to, and I keep wanting to get to other books, other biographies. I didn't start any Trollope biographies like I meant to in November. I want to get started on that, but I kind of pared things down. So we'll see how this goes in December. I really hope to have some progress, not so much in the numbers per se, just in completing things, just clearing out a little bit, a few of my library books, just clearing out a little bit of my currently reading on Goodreads. That would make me quite happy to end this year with. But we'll see. So let me know what you think of any of these books, if any of them sound interesting to you, if you read any of these books, if you have any particular plans for December reading, and if you do this sort of thing too. Do you ever just stop picking up new books and focus on trying to finish as many books as possible instead of starting a bunch of new books? I know I'm starting a couple of new books, but and I didn't even tell you about the ebooks I have going, because I won't talk about that until I finish them, because let's say time, waits for nobody. So, and we're getting into a bit of time here, so I will leave it here. Hope you've enjoyed this discussion. If you like talking about all kinds of books and all kinds of having one's mind all over the place, please subscribe and like. This is Catherine at Taking Tea with Catherine. Have a lovely tea and book-filled day.